that's why I think it's so interesting to have new protocols that where there's inherent value. We're going to dig into it. I kind of got some different themes around it that I've been thinking about too, but I think it's a good time to get into the pillars. And these are things I really love, that there's these principles around it. I like that there's like naturally there's no room for sacrifice here. There's no room for a sacrifice because you're minting the tokens. And I love the true, the real DeFi aspect of it too. The whole thing about, community and liquidity pools, and even with Pulsar, where it's like, I feel like I've heard Gift say it like 5 times, like anyone can create a liquidity pool, anywhere else, and unstoppable liquidity pools. There you go. That sort of thing. So no leaky boats, creation, not inflation, Permabull. Can you guys kind of go through each one and just describe it for people so they understand the different of this, and like how they even, what they're supposed to.
I think my internet's spiking a little bit. So, or it could be.
It's Max.
Okay. All right. Well, in game dev, we have these things called pillars. And when you're building a very, very complex game, you have to have something up there that's your cornerstone, that's your anchor point, that's your keystone that you need to reference. And so when we started all of this, we started looking at a couple of different ones. And we first started with Gift's favorite is no leaky boat. And it's a principle that's fundamentally looking at all the fat and cutting it and actually sussing out the simulation on why you want to do something correctly in the right direction. We can expand on that one, but the no leaky boat applies to all the other paradigms. The other one is creation, not inflation, because we first have to talk about what we were talking about before, is why inflate to give yourself some other little fancy number that really doesn't make sense. Why not take that economic energy of proof of power, proof of programming, proof of pulse, which is what Gift for Tech is based on, but also proof of Permabull that puts it in there. So the Permabull, like we talked about before, is going to be kind of like a recursive OA, but it only can do one thing: take the economic energy that it was used to create the asset, and then from there, delete the supply. So you can see how both of these pillars not just support, but compound on each other and move through that idiom. And then we came up with simulation, not speculation. A lot of people may or may not have had experience building other simulated systems or complex architecture or designs or things that have need you to pivot in real time. And so we wanted to release Gift completely under the water, not talk about it, not do anything with it. But we were talking about Pulsar. And Pulsar is very, very unique because it takes Gift tech to bind two L1s together. But why would you start there? Why wouldn't you do it on your native chain just to suss out the simulation in real time? So those were kind of our core components to start. And as we move through, we're building more on those components and on those pillars because they always support themselves to build higher and higher architecture.
When I saw creation, not inflation, when I first came across the idea, when you guys were describing it, I was like, why doesn't everything have this? And that's why I want to ask you all too, like, why isn't, or will it become the default for a lot of new protocols that are even outside of these? Like, is it the answer to a lot of the issues that other projects and stuff are dealing with?
I mean, I think the reason why it doesn't happen, or hasn't really been happening, is really kind of comes down to greed. Like, it's one of those things where, and I've seen it happen with previous founders, where they want to bend and get the protocol to give out super high APRs, or they want to, give out extra inflation if you stake large amounts, or whatever the case may be. Like, they listen to the community, but they basically harm the protocol in order to appease the crowd. And that's the problem. And that's what was hard, even in our small groups, and Larry will attest to this. It was hard to convince everybody to go no leaky ship, because it's like you're constantly, you have to fight everyone's will to go, full board on APRs and etc. Everything I just said. So to actually cut the fat and say, no, we got to build this with what's best for the protocol, because if we build it with what's best for the protocol, then everybody has a better shot in the long run as a community.
That's exactly right. What's best for the user is actually what's best for the protocol at the end of the day, especially when it protects the protocol. And reflexively, if we learn, hopefully by the end of this, why people that aren't treating this as what it is will eventually get left behind, because it's programmed into the system. It's baked into the carrot and stick of what it does. So you can use it many, many, many different ways because of how we're putting these tooling together. But remember, with no leaky boat, what's best for the protocol is not about greed. It's about actually protecting the ideals that we're trying to create and also step away of what's been done before. Like copying something as an artist is giving the ultimate tip of the hat to it. However, you can only draw the same pony picture so many times for it doesn't bloody matter.